All right, hello you guys. My name is Marissa Marlovitz. This is my case study for the Elmhurst Research Showcase 2023. I will be incorporating vocabulary supports throughout small group instruction with dual language students. So a little bit of context before we dive in. I am teaching at a school. It is a low-income school. It's a Title I school. 84% of the students are considered low income, 68% of the students are Hispanic, and 64% of the students are ESL. I am working with 3 beginner level English proficiency 5th grade dual language students. We will be working in an ELA small group with focus on vocabulary instruction. Their language is spoken. Their L1 will be Spanish and their L2 is English. So students access scores. I have 3 students, and it's just student 1, 2, and 3. Student 1 is at a listening 6.0, speaking 3.2, reading 2.5, and writing 2.4. Student number 2 is at a listening 3.4, speaking 2.7, reading 2.9, and also writing 2.9. And then student number 3 actually just moved here from Mexico back in February, and this is now the beginning of May. So he's at a listening 2.0, speaking 1.0, reading 2.0, and writing 1.0. So I have 2 research questions. The first one is, how can I, as a teacher researcher, incorporate various vocabulary strategies into a small group instruction of 5th grade dual language students? And then number 2, in what ways do 5th grade dual language students use vocabulary strategies during their small group instruction? So my data collection timeline, this was a 10-day study. All of it was in a small group of the 3 students plus myself for about 15 minutes per day. So in week 1, on days 1, we did a vocabulary pretest just to see where they're at. Days 2 and 3, they created a Jamboard using their Google Chromebooks. Day 4, they picked 5 vocabulary words to draw. Day 5, they picked another 5 vocabulary words to draw. And then going into week 2, for day 6, we reviewed the words and their Jamboards just because over the weekend we kind of needed to refresh our minds. Day 7, we did vocab A to Z practice, which is an online resource. Day 8, we applied vocab words into sentences. Day 9, we did another vocab A to Z practice. And then day 10 was the vocabulary post test. So conceptual framework. I kind of broke this into 3 different areas. So vocab strategies for ELL students. I found a great article on that. Visuals as a vocab support, that is a big thing with ELL students. So the article I picked for that was titled The Effectiveness of L2 Vocabulary Instruction. And then lastly, technology is a vocab support because kids nowadays are learning so much more with their Chromebooks and their phones and just a lot more technology. So this one was learning vocabulary on a screen. Analysis tools that I used. So this is my code book. So I have a code abbreviation and then a code meaning. So IV is introducing a specific vocabulary strategy. Q is questioning for students. SF is scaffolding for students. RD is repeating directions, and VA is vocabulary assistance. So the code book is used to decode my transcripts or my audio recordings. And then types of data collected, lesson plans, observation notes of my own, student work examples, and then also those audio recordings. So the curriculum that I used, first going off with the standard that I based this all off of, CC.5.L.4, vocabulary acquisition and use, determine or clarify the meaning of an unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases based on a grade 5 reading and context, choosing flexibility from a range of strategies. And then these are the 3 resources we mainly used. So over to the left, you have vocab A to Z. That is an online resource that you could put all of their vocabulary words into, and it makes it into assessment, games, practice, a ton of things that you could think of, reading material. We also use Jamboard. This is a Google program where students can write their words, type their words, and then find a picture to match it and put it on a big board. And then lastly, Words Their Way, which is a phonics book. We use that to get their words that we were using with them. So finding number one, incorporating various vocab strategies to support dual language fifth grade students. So I realized that you need a wide range of strategies for ELL students. You need either technology, hands-on, visuals. So I included 2 lesson plans where they both incorporated 2 different strategies. The first lesson plan on the left, you can see I incorporated a worksheet, so actual paper that the students can pick words and draw them physically. And then the second thing I incorporated was a Jamboard, which is an online program where they can basically do the same thing, but do it all online and find pictures on Google. So resources given to students. So they got the vocab picture worksheet, their Words Their Way word list, and then also a vocab word pretest. So on day 1, this is just a transcript from day 1. So you can see I introduced the activity. I asked students if they remember how to complete a Jamboard. So I was double checking to see what they know beforehand. And then also I explained it again to students who might not have done a Jamboard in a while. Then I explained to students that they need to start working on their Jamboard. I repeated directions. Repeating directions is a big thing for ELL students. It kind of goes into scaffolding. You want to repeat and repeat and repeat, especially for those students who seem off task. And then lastly, the last part of my summary, teacher asked students which words they're starting with. I walked around to each student. I pointed to words on their paper directly, and then I also helped them find a picture that related to it directly. And this transcript does come from when they were working on just Jamboards. And then finding number 2, how do students use vocabulary strategies in small group instruction? So students had the choice as to which strategy. Let me go back. Sorry, they had a choice of which strategy they would like to do. So I kind of took observation notes a lot during these days in the case study. And so on April 11th, I noticed that some students like to go really fast. They find pictures that are very straightforward. One student likes to find pictures that relate only to soccer, which I thought was interesting, but at the same time, it's a 5th grade student. They're going to want to find stuff that interests them. And then also all 3 boys did talk a lot, use strange languaging throughout this process. So they spoke Spanish, and then they also spoke English during the creation of their Jamboards. The 2 pictures that I included, one is one student who preferred pen and paper. So that was my first finding, that students not only get to pick the various strategies, they get to pick which method they get provided that strategy. So this student did everything on pen and paper. He much more preferred that, whereas the student on the right hand side of this picture, he preferred to do everything online and really loved the Jamboard and vocab A to Z. And then here are just some student artifacts. So we have one student, he drew the month of June. So he did a calendar and then a drum. And then this was the student that loved to do the Jamboard. So he put the word drum on a Post-it, found a picture of a drum, flute, found a picture of the flute, tune, he found a music note. So it just kind of shows that students got to pick which strategy worked best for them and which method they preferred, whether that's technology or pen and paper. So conclusions of this whole study, I found that dual language students use various forms of visuals, and they much more prefer visuals. Students also prefer technology-based strategies. 2 out of 3 students much more preferred technology. And then students were eager to work with partners and kind of get that communication going throughout the small group. Now on to future directions of where I would be headed after this case study. So with my ESL endorsement, I will be teaching probably a lot of students with ESL or that need language support. So I'm going to provide a lot of pictures and visuals for my students. I also would like to focus homework on technology, especially when it comes to vocabulary. Of course, this is based on what my students can do at home, if they even have Wi-Fi at home, but I think technology really motivates students. And then lastly, provide students with multiple opportunities for choice when it comes to vocab strategies. I think oftentimes we get caught up just teaching vocab strategies, but we never really give the students the choice when it comes down to them actually learning their vocabulary words. So now kind of on to the last part, if you have any questions. But that was my case study. I feel like I learned a lot throughout this. And I think this helped me learn a lot with vocabulary instruction, especially working with the EL students. So thank you.